Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings here. Today on the program, the Great Reawakening is sweeping through the Republic. The Great Reawakening that is causing millions of people, even folks who have been lifelong Democrats. We've seen Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, and many others. Trump himself, a former Democrat. Sweeping the country, this great reawakening. What does it mean? Critical race theory being ushered out, getting rid of critical race theory. Woke agendas, the liberal coalition of immorality crumbling. Even Mark Zuckerberg admitting that Kamala Harris put forth pressure on Facebook and other social media platforms to silence our free speech. The great reawakening, the liberal movement, under pressure, under fire. And more people coming to the right side. Today on the program, all of that and your phone calls. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings here, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain of the United States. You know, as I watched the intro to the show today, that speech I'm giving, I mean it. The divine providence of God in this republic is awake, it's active, and it's well. America is not on her deathbed. I know it seems that way with Kamala Harris and her regime of chaos and crisis, but America's in a nightmare, not on her deathbed. There's a big difference. Difference, of course, is that everybody, words are important, everybody always wakes up from nightmares. And we are in one, no doubt about it, folks. We are in a nightmare, but we conservatives who can muster up the strength to see adversity and challenge and tragedy through understand that we are on the cusp of something wonderful. We're seeing evidence of it all of the time. The radical left woke agenda crumbling in so many ways before us. Now, we have a lot of work to do. But I want to tell you some stories today about hope and about where we are with regards to this liberal movement crumbling beneath our feet because of the right side. People like you, ladies and gentlemen, who are waking up by the multiple dozens of millions of people. And they're coming over to the right side to help us. Let me begin the session of hope, if you will, based in reality. As always, we don't deal in myth and nonsense over here. So the state of Louisiana, for a couple of months now, we've heard about Louisiana. You know, they've done some great things down there. But Republican Governor Jeff Landry today issued an executive order on Tuesday, I should say, that prevents the use of critical race theory in classrooms for kindergarten through 12th grade. This is a big deal, folks. This is a big deal. Critical race theory, I'll tell you about its core principles here in a moment, but it's the reason why kids have been woke or wussified or diverted away or indoctrinated away from the true intent of the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. Critical race theory is a huge problem, and it's exactly the kind of conservative decision-making down in Louisiana that we need to see throughout the country in states that are governed by Republican governors. This is coupled with the fact that millions of people throughout the republic are now waking up to the problem that is liberalism, the coalition of immorality that is liberalism, the woke educational agenda that is liberalism. And it's how patriots are in record numbers running for and winning seats in local county governments, including school boards, by the way. And this is all important. It's huge. It's because this is how we win. We do not win by engaging in myths that have been percolating through our conservative movement since 2020. And I'm going to talk about the myths towards the end of the show, and I'm going to call specific myths out because it's nonsense and it's time to put them to bed. It does nothing but take entire swaths of people from our movement off of the battlefield of local involvement. So the reason that we're seeing this reawakening and these huge gains and experiencing so many successes in our educational systems across the country is because of you. It's because of your local involvement. It's not because of conspiracy theories. It's not because of, whack job theories about devolution or the military being in charge of the country or whatever. It is reality, and it's the reality of what I call determined patriotism. That's the involvement of you, good people. I do what I do here on this show. I try to be a voice to wake people, to give people hope and to wake them up and to point out the immorality of the radical liberal woke movement. And I'll remind you that in 2023, 14 states, because of the involvement of people like you, American patriots, 14 states outlawed the use of critical race theory in their school curriculums. I'll take that. That's a huge victory. We have a lot of work to do. 14 states is a great start. And this week, as I mentioned, Louisiana doing the same thing by virtue of an executive order in this case. Sometimes these actions happen with executive orders. Sometimes these actions happen because school boards with their new conservative members are more conservative and they're ordering critical race theory out, canceled, done away with in the schools within their districts, and rightly so. Governor Jeff Landry's office said on Tuesday with regards to all of this that critical race theory is divisive. Its teachings are divisive, and they instruct students to view life through the lens of race and victimhood. And that's no way to grow up. That's the pathway to wussification. That's the pathway to victimhood. And Governor Landry also believes that students should be learning about American exceptionalism, thank you very much, and the principles that are embodied in our state and federal constitutions throughout the United States of America. Our federal constitution and our state's constitutions, equal values of every individual within the republic. That's what we should be talking about. And parents and students now in Louisiana and all of these states are relieved, especially as they're now heading back to school. That's this time of year. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, critical race theory, it teaches children that they are either currently or that they will be in the future oppressed, or that they themselves, because of their race, usually the white kids, you are going to grow up to be oppressors. You're going to hold other people down because of their race and their ethnicity based on your white privilege, right? You hear all of that nonsense. Folks, that viewpoint, that critical race theory, what's in that teaching and then in the core value system of that, it's immoral. Absolutely immoral. Not to mention, it's absolutely false. There's Dr. Cade Brumley down there in Louisiana, too. He is the state superintendent of education, and he's working on this with Governor Landry as well. Critical race theory is on its face. I'm telling you, critical race theory is divisive by its very nature. And so it does my heart good when I hear stories like this, that it is being rooted out by local communities and so forth. It teaches, critical race theory does, it teaches racism. It teaches sexism and other oppressive behaviors. And it advocates, like I said, for victimhood. Poor me, the students, I'm a victim. Victimhood robs people of self-worth and value. It robs people of human dignity, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what the radical left want. They are not about human dignity. Oh, they talk a big game about it. But again, The words they use are one thing. Joy and happiness. We're going to see so much joy and happiness with Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. Really? Well, let's look at the actions that they've displayed over the last few years. I've told you this in other shows. Tim Walz is a monster. He let Minneapolis burn for 3 days under arson, anarchy, riots, looting, rape, and murder. Kamala Harris bails the felons out who are responsible for all of that, holds people in jail because she withholds evidence, including people who are on death row and who could have been freed if she would have released them. We've talked about all of these things. So again, I just remind you, look at their actions, look what their policies set in place. Their words are meaningless. Joy and happiness, where down at the southern border or anywhere in this country, because as Tom Holman says, we are now all border states. Every one of us, because of the sheer numbers of illegals that have migrated up throughout every state in the union. Where is the joy and happiness? There is none. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. So critical race theory, rather than teaching children how to work hard and how to overcome adversity, challenge, and tragedy, which happens to everyone in this life, it teaches them that they're a victim and that it's white people or other races that are the problem. It teaches us that America is not exceptional, that it was founded on racism and bigotry and slavery. So it's discrimination at the core. That's what critical race theory is. And it is against children's happiness. It's against the true education of what children need to hear. It teaches them to continually be dependent because of their victimhood instead of being independent because of their ability to overcome challenge, tragedy, and adversity. So if you're all about being oppressed and having a worldview that makes you a victim because of your race, that's critical race theory. If you believe that you've been called and have the power to step out of that and rise above circumstance and rise above the cards in the hand that you've been dealt in life, like so many of us have, the conservative movement is for you. The conservative movement is the real movement of human dignity. I mean, really. It's not, the Republican Party is not perfect, but the conservative movement that is part of that party at least strives to teach people that wonder, joy, and meaning in life can be achieved just because of who you are born to be, naturally born to be, who you are intended to be. Your calling and your destiny are under your control. You're not helpless. You're not a helpless victim being held down. America is an exceptional place. It is an exceptional in as much as the experiment that it represents of the pursuit of liberty and happiness and life. And it's also exceptional because of the people who are within it. So Governor Landry down in Louisiana directed Superintendent Brumley to continue to review the rules, the bulletins, the regulations, the contracts that the school districts in Louisiana engage upon, and to police within the Department of Education actions to eliminate materials that put forth nonsense and ideas that the state, through critical race theory, that would dare to teach individuals that by virtue of their race or their sex are inherently racist or sexist or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. And that's what critical race theory is. You are racist because of your sex, because of your race. All of that stuff, that nonsense, that abject, the lies that critical race theory is what is being eliminated in Louisiana by virtue of an executive order and in other states by virtue of your involvement. So great news. This is astonishing good news, and it's part of a reawakening that is sweeping through this republic. You don't hear about this on radical left legacy news media. You don't hear a lot about it on social media, but I'm telling you, there is great hope sweeping America. And you will, if you haven't already, be experiencing it very soon. All right, up against my first break. Thanks for being here with me. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to head over to DougBillings.us, the new website, DougBillings.us, and prayerfully consider setting up a recurring monthly donation over there. Stay with me. Much more to talk about, much more hope to give you based in reality and what's going on in the Republic. I'll be right back. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. Hey, want to tell you about beef. Doug's Beef, DougsBeef.com. This is not your ordinary beef. This is prepper beef. If you want to have a supply of protein on hand, I'm talking ribeye, strip steaks, Kansas City and New York strip, and T-bones as well. Doug's Beef, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. Comes to you in freeze-dried packets, shelf life of 25 years. And when you cook this stuff up, I'm telling you, I wouldn't sell it if it wasn't delicious. Awesome stuff. DougsBeef.com. Head over there, take a look at all of the inventory, and stock your shelves with protein, with good tasting stuff. DougsBeef.com, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. There's the beef. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. I am Doug Billings. Today's economy crashing thanks to the policies, platform, and politics of Kamala Harris. Thank you very much. If you want to protect your investment that you have set aside for your retirement, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's diversifying in gold and silver, the biblical standard for which we can protect our money. Head over to Doug's Gold, D-O-U-G-S gold.com, DougsGold.com, and simply get information about how you can diversify your portfolio and protect your retirement, ladies and gentlemen. DougsGold.com. Also information about how to use gold and silver as currency on DougsGold.com. Ladies and gentlemen, head over there today. Protect yourselves. Protect your retirement. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side. The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, so good news sweeping the nation, this great reawakening. I'm very excited about it. Happy to share it with you because everybody needs a dose of hope in these times. And today, real hope based in real outcomes. Louisiana outlawing, because of an executive order issued by their governor, critical race theory. Critical race theory is something that teaches that a person's moral character is determined by his or her race or sex. Ridiculous nonsense. And it encourages students to discriminate against everyone because of that person's color, that person's race, creed, race, ethnicity, age, marital status, family status, disability status, religion, national origin, any other characteristic that's protected by federal and state law is under attack if critical race theory is allowed to take root. And so Governor Landry has done a good thing by eliminating it just outright with an executive order. And I'm calling on all Republican conservative governors in every state to do the same thing. And when you hear and read the concepts of critical race theory, when I spell them out for you like this, you're left with, you're astonished. First of all, it might not have dawned on you. You might have heard the term critical race theory, but you might not know the guts of it. What's in it? What does it really say? And so there's this astonishment usually when I tell people about this. Really? It really says that? Are you kidding me? About how anybody with any shred of any intellectual maturity or empathy for other people could be for this nonsense is crazy. And once reasonable people hear it, they're against it. Now, the kooks, the radical liberal kooks who are possessed by hopelessness, they don't see it. They don't see the world the way we do. They do not view America as exceptional. They view America as evil, founded on evil ground, evil foundations. And that's why the radicals within the Liberal Party want to fundamentally transform America. They don't understand. They clearly, when we would say to them, wait a minute, because if you're like me, I hear that phrase, and Obama was the first one to say it out loud. Now, Woodrow Wilson and others and Roosevelt, FDR, through the years, all believed this, but they weren't so vocal about it. Their actions, I could do a show or two or three on just that. But Obama was the first one to say it. America needs to be fundamentally transformed. Remember that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, no, it doesn't. America does not need to be fundamentally transformed. In fact, I will put it to you this way. There is no way that a person can be an American patriot and believe that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. It's impossible. That is anti-American. America was founded because of an inspiration within the divine providence of God. America was founded by men who were inspired by God and wrote our founding documents. This does not need fundamental transformation. The only reason the radical liberals say that, other than being anti-America, is because they do want to create a socialist communist state. They are the commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. There's no other way to put it. This is obvious to people, again, who are intellectually mature. And ladies and gentlemen, congratulations, because you who watch and listen to this show are members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land. So cheers to you for being here with me. I appreciate you. But Louisiana has made news today, this week, and gratefully, rightfully so, ending critical race theory. You may recall earlier this year, they also ruled that in all public schools, the 10 Commandments must be displayed. Fantastic. And yes, of course, the liberals are challenging that, but we'll see how that all turns out. But great steps, great, bold, righteous steps being taken to put forth American exceptionalism and the divine providence of God, the intent of the founding fathers. And yes, the founding fathers would be pleased to see the 10 Commandments in the classroom. If you were to go back and research early American colonial school curriculums, you would discover that every one of the founding fathers intended American public schools to contain curricula that includes the Bible, the study of the Bible, theology, philosophy, the arts, sciences, mathematics, civics, as opposed to straight up history in addition to it. And so we have a conservative core that is moral and based within beliefs of the divine providence of God and the Creator who bestowed upon us rights. And we have in America a radical left liberal woke mob who wants to try to transform America away from all of that. And so that leaves us with this great reawakening back to the divine providence of God, back to the intent of the founders, and a resistance to the tyranny of the radical left. And this is what has caused people like Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Elon Musk, and others to be so vocal about the conservative movement in America, because they see the threat. And when lifelong Democrats like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, and Trump for that matter, who was a Democrat for many years, when they see the tyranny and switch sides and say, we've got to stop what Kamala Harris represents, I mean, that's eye-opening. And that gives us a moment of pause, because if they're seeing it that way, we'd all better take a moment to look at what they're seeing. And I know that all of you, again, who listen to this program have done that. But I wish that other red state governors would have the man parts, as we say, to enact legislation, or I should say executive orders that will rid the states and the schools of things like critical race theory, to make those kinds of decisions and invoke similar actions and decisions that we've seen this week down in Louisiana. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, these victories are sweeping through the republic, whether or not governors are specifically taking action or not. The feelings of the American people, the waking up of the American people to all of this is happening because of the involvement. This is all the reason, and because of the involvement of good people like you, who have become involved in local levels of government and who have been a voice on social media and within your own individual circles of influence and families and friends and coworkers, etc. The reawakening, really, in so many ways, of the divine providence of God and the intent of the founders is sweeping the nation because of you. And so thank you very much. It is good to see. You know, I can go to any number of events and give a speech and talk to people, and inevitably, you know, they thank me, and it's as if they're grateful to see me at these events and to speak. But I'm telling you, inevitably, it's me who is fed and bolstered and lifted up by the people at these events. And it's you, ladies and gentlemen, who do the same for me through this show, who lift me up and support me, and who go to DougBillings.us and prayerfully consider that recurring monthly donation. That is real, and that's powerful, and I appreciate it very, very much. And to be with you shoulder to shoulder, working to recover the republic is exactly, I think, what God has tapped me on the shoulder to do. So it's just great. I say that because I'm hopeful today. And I want you to feel hopeful. I want you to see the hope that's out there. I want you to be confident. I don't want us to become complacent. We have a lot of work to do. It's not over. But it's the heart of why people, as I said, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, are now supporting the Republican Party. We can see it, we can feel it, and we should take great hope from that. And we should be reinvigorated to do the work of what I call determined patriotism, to get out there in the local levels in our counties and work for true conservative legislators, elected officials, principles and ideas, and so forth. So and at some point, I think, and to many degrees at least, this reawakening to the problems that are being cast down upon us by the liberal, woke, anti-American, communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is part of the reason why in the news this week, Mark Zuckerberg came forward and said that Facebook was indeed pressured by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the entire administration that they represent to censor content that was related to COVID-19, the pandemic, the vaccine, etc. And this regime that has been now bequeathed to Kamala Harris pressured social media companies like Facebook, back in the day when it was called Twitter, now X, Jack Dorsey, and prior to Elon Musk's arrival on the scene, all of them censored, pressured, throttled, shadow banned, whatever you want to say, but because of Kamala Harris and her attack on our free speech. You see, this is the only way they can succeed, is to throttle and hide the truth and to deny our access to it. I mean, it's just like the chaos and the crisis that Kamala Harris purposefully sets in motion throughout America. This censorship, censoring online debate about abuses of power with regards to COVID, the shutdowns, the lockdowns. If we were to dare speak up about what the jab could possibly do to us, to throttle our free speech, it's part and parcel what Kamala Harris is: tyranny. And it's anti-American, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I call them the Communist Socialist Party because, yes, they have blended communism and socialism together. And I grant you know, those of you out there, well, what about fascism and Marxism? They've blended that in there too. Yes, 1,000 times yes. But just for simplification, Communist Socialism, the former Democrat Party, they are not a pro-America political party. Look at what they do. Harris set in motion an assault on our First Amendment rights. It was intentional, and it's typical to the form, right out of the playbook of the radical left liberal mob. Another abuse of power. And their lust for it, their lust for power, is what drives their ambition away from the truth and away from justice, consistently so. And it drives them into lies, it drives them into cheating, as all mechanisms to hold on to power at all costs. And obviously, this is why they hate Trump so much, because he represents the end to their grip on power. He always has, and it goes much deeper than just one person like Kamala Harris. Trump represents the end of the deep state and of everything that man did for us while he was president. The number one thing, the most significant benefit that he afforded us, was that he was the one who revealed to us what the deep state is. And they're on him precisely because of that. And we'll talk about some of this more in a moment. But ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm up against another break. Just a real quick commercial break, 2 minutes, and you're right back here with me. I always remind you to head over to DougBillings.us and prayerfully consider setting up a recurring monthly donation. And when we get back, the phone lines, we're going to get those opened as well. We'll give you the information along with the number right when we get back. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now, and we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
Doug Billings, reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
Everybody, welcome back. Glad to be with you. We are in this thing together, ladies and gentlemen, standing shoulder to shoulder as we try to reclaim the republic away from the grip of the anti-American communist socialists, formerly known as Democrat Party. And so before the break, talking about this communist socialist lust for power, the reason why they want power, they hang on to it, and why, by the way, they are engaging in all of this nonsense that's been arrayed against President Trump, the lawfare, the weaponization of our justice system to attack him. And of course, it's unrelenting. Even today, new charges filed. And I don't want to get into that because I want to talk about the hope that surrounds us here in America and this reawakening. But just know this about the lawfare that's been waged against President Trump. There's a big date coming up, September 18th, where the Judge Merchan up in New York, the Alvin Bragg case, is September 18th is the sentencing date for President Trump. And I wasn't planning on talking about this, but just real quickly, they may put him in jail. They may sentence him. Okay, that's the sentencing date, September 18th. He's already been convicted of these nonsense, bogus, felony charges. Hang on a minute, because I'm going to give you some hope. But that September 18th is the sentencing date for that. And they want nothing more. The radical left isn't just going to stop and put on the brakes. They're after Trump. They want to be able to say that he's been sentenced to jail. Now, whether or not he sits in a jail cell will be determined by, of course, if he's granted bail. And anyone else in his situation, of course, would be granted it, but we will see. Do not lose heart about this. No matter what imagery, no matter what decision is made on September 18th, I'm telling you this, and here's what I was getting at with regards to hope. Everything, and words are important, every single piece of lawfare that has been waged against President Trump is going to be either overturned or thrown out by the United States Supreme Court. So just believe that and just know it and rest assured in that. We may see some images, we may see some decisions that don't seem to be in our favor, and oh no, what's going to happen? Ultimately, all of this will be thrown out and dismissed. Okay, so just know that and believe it, because it's the truth. But we again, before the break, Facebook, Zuckerberg admitting that Kamala Harris, who was bequeathed now the top position in the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, constantly put pressure on Facebook to strip us away of our First Amendment freedom of speech rights. And it remained Zuckerberg's decision, of course, whether or not he was going to do it. But he did admit to Congress that he was put under intense pressure. He used the word bullying from Kamala Harris and the Democrat Communist Socialist regime, especially with regards to COVID-19 and the vaccine. I myself, ladies and gentlemen, in this very program that you're watching, I 4 years ago started this show, and I used YouTube as the platform to launch it. And it took me about 7 or 8 months, which in the grand scheme of things is not a long time. I grant you that. But I gathered quite a large number of people over there on YouTube, thanks to my good friend, General Michael Flynn, and other people who came on the program. We had millions of people watching the show over on YouTube. And 3 months after we hit those kinds of numbers, YouTube takes a good look at us. Oh, wait, this Billings guy, he's conservative. He's talking about election theft and the COVID-19 myth and the dangers of this vaccine. We got to cancel him. And I was. They wiped everything out, every show for over a year and a half. All of the shows taken, done away with. I have no access to them. My livelihood was taken away. That's how I made a living. Those little YouTube commercials that you see paid the bills. And so it was all ripped away from me. And we had to start over. And so I am not monetized on social media. That's why I continually and hopefully very humbly ask you to prayerfully consider going over to dougbillings.us and setting up those monthly recurring donations, because this show represents the truth. And I don't charge you. No, there is no charge to watch this program. So I'm simply saying prayerfully consider what you think this might be worth to you. And donate, please, if you can. 10, 20, 100, 200, whatever you can. Just donate, dougbillings.us. That's why you hear me say that so often, because my livelihood was ripped away precisely because of what Zuckerberg is talking about. The radical left liberal movement in America took away my voice. But I'm back, as you can see, trying to rebuild over on YouTube. The good people at worldofyoutube.com. I encourage you to follow them as well. Great content at worldofyoutube.com. Spreely TV, the same thing. But I am on X, and I ask that you subscribe and follow me over there. On Facebook, the same thing. Look me up. You go over to Rumble. And if you're into the audio versions of these podcasts, I'm on almost every audio podcast platform out there. And share the program. Share it with your friends. That's how we win, you see. That's how we get the truth out there. So I've only just begun to rebuild back over there on YouTube, by the way. We're gonna survive. We're gonna be fine. I believe in what we're doing, but it's not been easy precisely because of what Zuckerberg was talking about. He may be under a threat, by the way. I don't know. Well, why is he just now saying this? Maybe he's under threat of prosecution. Maybe they're coming after him and he believed the government pressure was wrong and he should have been stronger about it. I did see an interesting interview with him just after the assassination attempt on President Trump, where Zuckerberg admitted that, what Trump did was amazing that day. I mean, in Zuckerberg's words, quote unquote, he said that was the most badass thing I've ever seen a president do. Get up after being shot in the face to get up, raise his fist. And I don't take that for granted, ladies and gentlemen, because it's things like that. When people see conservatism, righteous conservatism, and when they see a real man, a real American man who has not been wussified by the radical liberal mantra and agenda to get up and do that, that impresses them. And if that draws Zuckerberg to our side, I'll take him. I mean, that remains to be seen. But if he does, if he has a conversion like Robert F. Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk have had, I'll take him. Absolutely so. So Kamala Harris, Administrator Biden, repeatedly pressuring people on Facebook to take away free speech. And that's what they've done. And Trump has borne the brunt of all of their efforts. We all know that. We can see it. All of that clearly was election interference. We saw this around the planet. Lockdowns, entire countries, internment camps being set up. People put in these camps if they didn't follow the COVID-19 protocols, if they didn't get the vaccine. In America, military men and women's careers were ruined. People in other industries, education, healthcare, I came from the healthcare industry, and I was fired because I refused, as the vice president of human resources, I refused to draft policies and procedures that would shut down facilities and keep people away from loved ones because of this mythical threat of the COVID-19 virus. And when you look at the numbers, and I can tell you, I did a study, my staff, I told them to run the numbers. When you look at the people who died of COVID when it was the primary cause of death, practically none. It was all comorbidities and multiple competing elements of their health that took them out. And we had more people die of the flu. And by the way, what happened to the flu? You don't even hear about the flu. I'm off on a tangent, but my point being, they didn't want that information to get out. They didn't want that truth to be told. Harris and Biden and their commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I told you that we would open the phone lines. A man of my word, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. That's the phone number. Join me. Let's talk about it. Would love to hear from you. And it looks like we do, in fact, have a couple of folks on the line. Our friend Vince down under in Australia. Vince, welcome back to the right side, my friend.
Yeah, hi, Doug. Yeah, Doug, just some great, well...
Oops, are you there, Vince? We may have lost Vince. I'm going to let him try to reconnect, ladies and gentlemen. He's a frequent caller, gives good insights. But just think about what they've done here. Kamala Harris, we can, again, as I said, look at her actions, the words joy and happiness, all of that nonsense. Just look what she brings about. The Republicans on these congressional hearings, Zuckerberg coming forward, admitting that Facebook throttled people like us, like you and me, took away our First Amendment rights. In my opinion, it's these people in Congress, and I'm talking about people on our side, okay? James Jordan, Josh Hawley, they're all about giving eloquent speeches during these hearings, right? Eloquent speeches that can be used as sound bites on their social media platforms. Well, I'm tired of the sound bites. Quite frankly, I want to see action. I want to see Josh Hawley go after people. I want to see Jim Jordan actually hold people accountable. All right, we have Vince back down in Australia. Vince, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, Doug. No, Doug, look, what I want to say was with the critical race theory, it has this infantile tendency to make out the white people are infinitely wicked and anybody else of any colour is infinitely virtuous. But I should remind you that with the black African slave trade, that would never have been possible without the cooperation of all the black chiefs and in the black tribes themselves. You know, if one tribe conquered another, they would enslave that race themselves. And also with slavery in the West, there's nothing particularly remarkable about that. All civilizations all through history had practiced slavery. But what's unique to the West, first of all with Britain, Wilberforce, later with America through a bloody civil war, was the abolition of slavery. And right. Even in Arabic countries, in Arabs, I mean, they practice slavery as well. I mean, many black people have gone.
Right, Vince. Yeah, and you're down under. You're cutting out from us from Australia, but yes, points well made. Are you back with me, Vince? No. Okay. Yeah. So what Vince was saying, we did get rid of it. And our founders, yes, our founders owned slaves. Our founders were slave owners, but they wanted to get rid of. They wanted to stop. Now, not all of our founders. The ones from the South did not, but we had a civil war about all of that, and we got rid of it. And we have to give, the divine providence of God often comes to us in stages. It doesn't, what the things that we want to see happen with regards to freedom and liberty and free speech and all of the rights that come to us from God, these things don't just happen overnight. And with regards to that and the topic of the day today, the hope that I'm giving you, look, we in 2020, most of us assumed that this was just sprung on us, or at least it feels like that, like the issues of COVID, the theft of an American presidential election, and how we got here seems like it just happened overnight, but it didn't. This has been in the works literally for 127 years, since 1896. And so it didn't just happen overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But the good news is there is a great reawakening to the truth and to the agenda of this radical left woke mob who has done everything in their power to run tyranny across us and to cascade chaos and crisis down upon us. And we want to hold people accountable. And we got to take another break. And I'm going to come back and finish up the show talking about accountability and to give you some more hope about specific accountability that you're going to see President Trump take, in my opinion, when he takes office in January of 2025. So stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy this trip into capitalism, something that God invented to fuel the republic in which you live. I'll be right back. Cheers.
twc.health/Brandon. This is one of our sponsors, has been now for a few years. Here it is. You just go there. If you use that URL, folks, you not only save money, but our program gets credit, which helps us keep doing great shows like this for free and pushing them out. twc.health/Brandon. Look up here at the top of the page where it says med kits. Go down there to the one that says contagion emergency kit. Contagion emergency kit. That's the one you want, right, Dr. McCullough?
Right. That's going to cover bird flu. Just you start on day one. I think all the animal workers, people in rural areas need to have these. You can't wait around for the pharmacist. If you start early, that comes with telemedicine. We can intensify the antivirals, get other drugs going. Very affordable. Join through Brandon's website. Join as a member because we're working on ways to replace the used drugs. And you have to be a member to get that advantage.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for being with me. It has been an honor of a lifetime to have you guys with me for these last years since I've started the show, and a new launch and a new partnership with worldviewtube.com. Please head over there, worldviewtube.com. Look them up. Great content, including this program where you guys become the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land. So talking about holding people accountable. We have given you a kind of a broad brush picture of hope and why I believe there's this great reawakening to the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers, and how you people have united and engaged in the work of what I call determined patriotism in your local levels of government, in your counties, within the states in which you live, to take back our government locally from this commu-socialist formerly known as Democrat Party. I want to see people in Congress, the Jim Jordans of the world and the Josh Hawleys of the world, who give great speeches that are designed to be nothing more than sound bites on their social media platforms. I want to see some real action. And I know that you do too, and I want to talk about this because there are some people out there that I think we need to just be aware of for a moment. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. So holding people accountable. I mean, I do want to see people within the Biden crime family held accountable. I want to see that. I want to see what, Hunter Biden and his laptop and information and so forth. I want to see that accountability. I want to know who the clients were on the Jeffrey Epstein Island. Okay, I want to see that. I want accountability. I want accountability for the people that put forth this fake Russian dossier and persecuted General Michael Flynn and President Trump and the Trump family. I want to see accountability. I do. I can go on and on. All right. But this is what I'm looking forward to when President Trump is back in office after he wins in November. I think that what you're going to see now, here's my opinion. Okay, I'm friends with General Michael Flynn. I talk to him often, and I've mentioned this, what I'm about to tell you. I've mentioned it to him. He smiles and he thinks, that sounds pretty good. I could go for that. But we'll see, how Trump decides to use General Michael Flynn in his next administration. But I have said all along that General Michael Flynn is much too important for the vice presidency. I'm glad that J.D. Vance got it. Now, I've talked about that. We need a standard bearer for 2028 and 2032 because we're not just after 2024, right? Flynn's too old to be the standard bearer in 2028 and 2032. I've told him that. Okay. And besides, he's just much too important. He would be too limited by the role of vice president. I think that he's going to be the secretary of accountability. That's my term. I'm the one, and he smiles, gives me a wink and a nod. He says, that sounds pretty good. I'd go for that. But it's from there that he'll be able to work. And I think that you're going to see that Flynn will be asked by President Trump to perform several tasks in this role as my term is Secretary of Accountability. And he's going to work with Bobby Kennedy Jr. He's going to work with Elon Musk. And they're going to do a few things. I think, first of all, Flynn will do a thorough gutting, cleansing, and purging of the Department of Justice. I think that you're going to see a reduction in redundancy of jobs and positions within the federal government. Flynn will work in tandem with Elon Musk on that for sure. And I think that you're going to see the elimination of the following. The Department of Education, gone. The Department of Energy, gone. And the Department of Interior, just for starters. And the powers that are in those departments returned to the states, where that power belongs, by the way. That's the intent of the founding fathers. The federal government had no right to swoop in and take control of those kinds of powers away from the states. That's one of the major problems in our republic this day, is that the radical liberal movement, headed up now by Kamala Harris, is all about giving the federal government more and more power that it's not constitutionally supposed to have. So also a reduction, if not an elimination of the IRS. Get ready for it. If this is not hopeful, I don't know what is. And the cleansing, when we get Bobby Kennedy in there, Kennedy's going to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services, in my opinion. And that department, that cabinet position is in charge of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. He's going to talk about gutting, cleansing, and purging. Bobby Kennedy's going to go crazy in that. And the Secretary of Health and Human Services is also in charge of the Center for Diseases Control, CDC, out of Atlanta. And Bobby Kennedy will control that and cleanse that department. He will withdraw the United States from the World Health Organization. And I think that you're going to see him and Flynn and Musk and others work with Trump to realign with NATO. I don't think NATO is going to go away anytime soon, but I do think that Trump and this team will hold NATO accountable to their charter and to pay up, to pay back pay to the United States for basically footing the bill since the inception of the alliance. So that's a lot to look forward to. And I think that you're going to see Flynn and Musk and Bobby Kennedy help President Trump withdraw the United States from the United Nations. This is my opinion based on what I'm seeing. And it's partly intuition, it's partly gut feeling, and it's partly conversations that I've had with people in those circles. So we shall see what happens. But for me, that is hopeful. And we'll see. One thing that I would caution you against is investing a lot of emotion and hope in this idea of mass arrests that some people are putting forth. There are some conservative influencers out there who are talking about and calling for a coordinated event of retribution. Well, look, I'm not going to mention anyone's names, but we will not see mass arrests, folks. We're not going to see it. We're not going to see people paraded through the media. We're not going to see Nuremberg 2.0, another term people throw out there, makes me crazy. We're not going to, and people get their hopes built up for these kinds of things. And it's clickbait, my friends, just to put it simply. When you think about it, that kind of nonsense would be terrible for our republic. Absolutely terrible. It would tear us apart, and in the long run would not be a good strategy. Now, as President Trump has said, Our retribution will be displayed by our success. And we are going to show people what being conservative does, what the conservative agenda can do. Now, there will be accountability to some degree. Those things that I said, the Biden crime family, the Hunter Biden laptop, the Ukrainian connection, the money laundering and so forth, the Biden family and all of that, those issues will be looked at. But again, mass arrests, Nuremberg 2.0, disassociate from people who put that forward. Not true. Not going to happen. Be aware that 9 times out of 10, people who put that stuff through are just looking for clickbait to bolster their following numbers. And I know that to some of you, that sounds disappointing. I'm not going to name anybody by name because that's not what I'm about. But I'm simply telling you, we have got to engage in reality. And I know that there has been people out there. Look, I can go down a list and show you Kookville, the things that we've seen put forth since 2020. I mean, there's a list. I mean, where do you want to start? President Trump is still in control. Even though he's not in the White House, he is still the acting president of the United States. Remember that one? Nonsense. It's BS. The military is in control of our country. They're running the show. Nonsense. Are you kidding me? If President Trump had anything to do with anything that's going on today, do you think that we would see the nightmare that we're currently living through? President Trump signed executive orders when he was still in office that's going to guarantee him to be escorted back into the presidency before 2024. Remember that? That's the theory of devolution. The person that put that it's a great read, it's a great read, but it's fiction. And the person who put it through is clickbait artistry. That's what it is. It is, excuse me, President Trump back in office before 2024, not going to happen. It was never going to happen. Trump's in control of the National Guard. They're conducting exercises all throughout the Republic. Oh my gosh, we are going to win. Eat your popcorn and watch the movie. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a movie. This is real life. And when people say that, and when people believe that nonsense Kookville BS, it takes entire swaths of our movement off of the battlefield. And the battlefield is your local government. The battlefield is where you live, your community, your county. It's your involvement in the law and order, the politics and the policy of your local community. That's where we win. We do not win by believing that President Trump is still in charge or the military is or whatever. Disassociate from the kooks and come into reality. We need you. We need you here with us so that we can win. So all of that said, hope surrounds us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a pack of blessings on our back. I'm just asking you to take inventory of those blessings. Look around and see. Things are moving. People are trending towards President Trump. I love you. I like you. And I need you. DougBillings.us. Head over there. I will see you every Monday through Friday right here. Ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.